Welcome to the Recruitment Hackers Podcast, a show about innovations, technology, and leaders in the recruitment industry. Brought to you by TalkPush, the leading recruitment automation platform.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Recruitment Hackers Podcast. I'm your host, Max Armbruster, and today I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Doug Opdycke, who's a VP of National Sales Recruiting at Nations Lending. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thank you. Appreciate you and what you're doing. Thanks, Max.
Thank you. Doug connected with us, listening to some of our content and feeling, we were just talking about the fact that we're feeling a little cooped up in 2020 and that we missed the opportunity to connect with others. And so this is a chance to connect and to connect with the audience as well. So for the audience, tell us what you do and the company that you work for.
Sure.
Tell us about Nations Lending.
Yep, Nations Lending. I'll start with the company. Company is a top 80 lender in the U.S., traditional retail mortgage lender. So our customers are home first-time buyers, but people that are buying, moving up in the marketplace, or in the last year, refinance. Here in the U.S. has been a huge marketplace for us. So we're a top 80, mostly in the central U.S. And I was brought on a year ago for national expansion, and then brought my team from a top 5 competitor with me over to Nations, almost exactly to the day a year ago.
Happy anniversary.
Yep.
So refinancing is a hot topic in 2020, you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I haven't seen rates like this. And, giving people opportunity to get into their dream home, or first-time buyers to get in the market when they didn't think they could afford a. So.
All right. I'm curious to hear more about this world, but perhaps before for us to understand where you're coming from, can you tell us how you ended up in recruitment? I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile now, and I can see it was sometime in 2004. No, yes. Before that. No, it was before the century. It was back in.
You guys were probably in grade school or before that, but let's not make fun of me too much. So, like most folks, I did not think I was going to end up a recruiter. 100% by accident. Fun story. I had sold a company, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, and a recruiter, nice fella, had been calling me. I had a non-compete, and all through the year, he would call and ask me, do I know a person? This was in the bank card credit arena, but, do I know a person in Salt Lake City that I might be able to give him a name that he could just connect with? And this went on throughout the year, like I say, and he invited me, his wife, I was living in San Diego, and he invited me to a dinner, and I made the mistake of asking him, with the folks that I gave you, did you make any money at all? How does that work? And I didn't know the industry one bit. And he happened to tell me that he made $250,000 on the leads that I had given him. And all of a sudden my steak and wine didn't taste as good as I thought it was going to, as I was trying to figure out what to do. So I actually worked with him for a few years, learned it. He knew that I was going to start my own company, went on to start my own staffing company, which I was integrated into a mortgage company right before the credit crisis. So that's how I got in, again, 100% by accident. I just happened to ask the right question at the wrong time and decided to jump in. So
you've been in this industry, specifically not just recruitment, but mortgage recruitment for a long time. And I suppose some of that is because you know the people, you know the industry, so you go from one opportunity to another organically. But are there some specific profiles and skill sets that this industry has honed in the recruiter in you?
In the arena, absolutely. But I think like most, one of the reasons I picked mortgage, right, is the freedom. I like to have some freedom in what I was doing. The other piece, it was an industry that had, back when I got in it, there's a wide gap between folks that had been doing it a long time, and I didn't find any rookies, any folks that really were newer to the industry. That's changed in the last probably 3 years, but I saw this huge gap. And so being a connector of people, I kind of just went where people weren't and said, wow, mortgage is really sleepy. It was old school recruiting. It was a yellow pad, believe it or not. And who did you meet at a conference? And so some years ago, and then, stuck in it, I think, dabbled outside of edges of it, and you just go back to what's comfortable. The biggest part of the mortgage arena that I love is, the personal friends, that it was one arena that where you stay in touch really the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And so I have this round table of folks that, either have followed me or that I followed them, but they became friends and colleagues at the same time.
And then there's always that advantage of you can probably do a background screening on a lot of people indirectly. We're only one or two connections removed away from somebody in mortgage by now.
Yep. I would say that the other piece in staying in one arena that's very much helped me and my team with that is, people, when you get to know people and you like people refer you a lot of business. So staying in that, probably still today, 65% of what I do is somewhat referral based. Now, it might just be that I heard that you guys did a great job for my aunt, and I have an uncle that lives in Florida. Can you help them? But there's an awful lot of text, quick conversations. And to that, I think a big part of the way I recruit, I want to help folks, even if it doesn't help myself. So if I can open a door and it's in a different arena or a different part of mortgage, I'm going to do that every time. Just especially in these times, I want to help folks. A lot of people got kicked in the butt that didn't have any idea in February and March that life was going to change. So taking that platform and making it bigger than just mortgage and being able to help folks if they need it with an introduction, could be in any industry, but staying put has allowed me to do that.
Yeah, I've heard that it's less in 2020 with the explosion of volume and digital hiring and digital channels, that it's a bit less about who you know and a little bit more about what you know. That now for a recruiter, there's more talent available than ever before if you know how to use the tools. And so you're going to be less likely to use the buddy network. On the flip side, what you're saying is, in a difficult year like now, this is when you're also scoring points with your network in order to build good karma and referral for the future. So the network remains critically important, though perhaps on the sourcing side, less so than before, right? I mean, you source your talent digitally, I assume.
Yep. A good portion. I think you nailed it too. If you were to look a year and a half ago, I came from a place that didn't have much technology to Nations, and Nations afforded me this look into technology that I had never experienced. Now, a lot of your audience would laugh, but I mean, I didn't know what to do with a Salesforce license. We had a team building out some work for us, but SMS I hadn't used. So when I got those tools, access to those tools, and had a team that we were just traditional cold call recruiters, and we integrated the technology with our network, there was a bounce to our step. There's something different. I think our tech guys would tell you, I get there, but it was so, I called it too much ice cream. Technology for me, that first little bit, when I have access to 300 and something thousand loan officers, that's a lot bigger than any network I would have ever thought that I could build. So I'm probably one of the few people that said, wow, I didn't fully believe it until I started using it, meaning some of the technology that's just coming out. And specifically in my world, I used to scoff and laugh at text because I didn't like getting them. SMS technology. And we probably half of our business came from SMS starting campaign. That's not how we ended it, but we started a relationship that we didn't have. So I'm, honored to say, hey, we're adapters and we're catching up with probably the rest of your audience with some of what
I don't know. It sounds like you're quite advanced. Text recruiting is still a relatively fresh area. I mean, I guess the early adopters were 5-10 years ago.
Some of them were laughing at us, But anyway.
Well, that's interesting. So are there some specific pieces to your tech stack that you would recommend for the text hiring for people who are listening or who are looking for solutions? Yeah.
So it could be so redundant and stuff that you guys, it's intuitive to your audience. A couple of the things that we did that were just simple is literally taking and looking up birthdays with a quick text first thing in the morning. I know it's your birthday today. I wish I would have known that and texted you. And happy birthday, by the way, which awesome. But a lot of the personal touches along with our branded, nations, here's a product that we'd like you to learn about, getting down to just even a happy birthday, right? And making it first thing in the day. So we make sure they go out before 8 a.m. There's a birthday text, and it's not just branded with, oh, by the way, now we're going to try to recruit you in the second paragraph. So some of what we've done is just take what our call would be, but a lot of it's been congratulations when we see, in our industry, there's a magazine that comes out with the top 200, loan officers and the top branches, using that in an SMS, but just to acknowledge our competitors without, beating them over the head. We call it beating them over the head recruiting has been, helpful. And then the other thing that you guys probably all do, once we became consistent. So Tuesday mornings, we know within a half hour that there's going to be a campaign going out. We know to what competitors. Once we got serious with it and built it into our everyday activities, we started having some real success with the text.
Well, I don't think you're behind the curve at all. I'm actually thinking of taking some of your ideas right to my product team. And, we send millions of SMS every month. So I should have thought about it all. But I don't think we have automated birthday messages going out, which I think is a pretty cool feature for us to add. So I'm writing this one down.
I'll take it. Like I say, we try to make things super simple, right? In the recruiting world. And so we look at it and go, how simple can we make it instead of, how complicated, and then how many touch points. And that's the other thing that broadcast, we're doing a little, I don't want to plug that, like Slide Dial is the one that we happen to use. There's lots of them, but on the broadcast piece, same thing is that we use a lot of humor. If you were to get some of our, but we'll use a broadcast. Hopefully this will go out. This goes out after January 1st, right?
Yes.
Good. Then I'm going to say this, and we could edit that part out or whatever. We're having some fun, making fun of ourselves as recruiters. January 1st, we have a campaign going out at 12:01 on social media, making fun that we wanted to be the first recruiter to try to recruit you in 2021. Nice. And then at 8:01, we have a bet going that we want to be the first recruiter in our space that reached out to you, because there's so many recruiters in our space. And it's just so competitive that we've actually decided to have a little bit of fun. It will be fun to report back to you if it works, but we're literally going to take it and have a little humor, because there's so many people that we get, you're the 8th or 10th recruiter this week that called me. What do you have that's different? So, using the technology, but then getting personal with it is what the team goal is.
Brilliant. And you can make use of tools that will personalize as well the outreach. So obviously using things like the first name of the recipients, dear Doug, et cetera, but you can now also automate things like voice notes and even sending out videos and GIFs in order to give it a little bit of, spunk and branding. Yeah.
Good points on your part. The other one and this is going to be just kind of what we call down and dirty recruiting. We did it by accident, and it's become part of our, whenever we can now, is we did a little, real quick on the iPhone, a little 20-second in front of a competitor's office that has a coffee shop we all like to go. Hey, Max, I was thinking of you. I'm right in front of your office. I'm not bold enough to walk in and try to recruit you in person, but I'd love to have a coffee with you next time I'm, off 24th Street.
Love it.
It was returned within 30 seconds because it was clever. The guy just said, super clever. Next time you're buying me coffee, I can't wait to meet with you. Different than anything that I got this week. Now, I'll take a week. I would have liked to say ever, you could have patted me out, but we'll take it. So we're trying to use technology, but then put a fun spin with traditional cold call recruiting, which our industry is not an early adapter to just about anything. We wait for everybody else to make all the mistakes. And then as an industry, we kind of go out reluctantly. We come crawling in at the end. So trying to get the team up to, what's new, what's exciting out there. How can we have a fresh take to what we're doing?
I like it very much. I think to start I'm thinking of all ways we can help people re-engage with their talent pool and do that kind of messaging. Because you generally, if you have a good database, you know who your competitors are employing, so you can have a targeted campaign just for them. And because you've been in the industry for so long, you know every lender out there, so it would make sense for you to be able to use that. Yeah. Going back just on the way the industry or the market is changing, you're saying, is your industry generally doing well? I know in the insurance space, in the insurance world and life insurance, they're having a good year in 2020. And refinancing, you're saying, is a hot area. Overall, would you say that lending space has grown in 2020 for your market?
Absolutely. Probably one of the top 3 years that I've ever had in the last 25. Some of the challenges have been so good, but we're watching other people in other industries, and I'll use where I am here in Arizona. We've had a tough time with converting a lot of what is around us is some warehousing, electronics, manufacturing. And though we've been doing great as an industry, watching others have to pivot or navigate that has been tough. Why we're doing so well, right? And yet I don't want to, knock on wood. I hope it continues in our space, but it's been an odd year to watch others really struggle and try to find their way, especially in recruiting friends. It's
a bit counter-cyclical, right? When business is going to be doing great and everybody's going to have money in the bank, then you'll have a slow year.
Yeah, that's well said. But, seeing recruiters too, that, we're getting a lot of calls from other industries where they just can't recruit, right? Or they can't recruit the way they had. So that's been a challenge. But overall for our industry, a top 3 in the last 25. And really a time for people to pause and look at a new way to do business too. The tough times of COVID have forced us to, we don't just get to jump on the plane and have a steak dinner. That would have been the majority of a lot of what I do, was coming into town face to face, breaking bread. And it took a minute to go, hey, we can't just crawl in a hole. We have to keep recruiting and we have to keep growing. And so, all of this is forcing us to do that and find different avenues and tactics to stay fresh.
Yeah, it sounds like you're not running out of ideas there, and that found other ways to build rapport. And it's going to continue to be the theme, I think, for many years to come. Looking back at 2020, are there other lessons that you're taking away from this year, or ways in which your industry has adapted?
Boy, and that one caught me off guard a little bit. Yes, but I think what we've had to do to adapt is really slow down, and it can't just all be about comp because so many people did well. So we had to slow down and go, wait a minute, you can't just have a compensation conversation, right? You can't lead with compensation. Yeah. Everyone's doing well. So it's a time that, a mentor used to tell me, I would feel horrible. He owned a mortgage company. And he said, if people are having to hit their brakes at yellow lights because they don't want to work here, I want to slow down and look at that and go, can we do very well? Can we do incredible and still change the way we're doing, give people more time with their families, those sort of things. So my recruiting team, we've really focused on, hey, get better at your pitch, get better at your craft, just listen better. I think what we learned in 2020 is we didn't listen very well. We just kept yelling our message instead of listening to what people want. All right. So
the more competitive the harder the industry is, the more you have to adapt your employer value proposition to your audience and think like a salesperson. Yeah.
And again, a lot more listening, right? There's a lot more empathy. There's a lot more caring, but you're hearing, I tend to be storytelling. I recruit by storytelling, but just hearing what people are going through and slowing down and going, it might not just be comp. It might be, hey, we just had this on a call I was today. Somebody said 6 weeks of working 7 days a week, 15 hours. I don't really care about the money. I'm already going to split it in half and get divorced, Doug, jokingly. But he was like, I'm going to split my money in half. Can you tell me, hey, I just want to be able to do this and have baseball, little league with my kids, So those are the things that I'm gratified that we.
Baseball's not legal anymore, Doug.
Oh, you guys can't. Then you're closed down. See, Arizona, we're not closed down to anything. Come on over. Everybody come visit. Anyway.
And one question I like to ask is to move back down memory lane into the dark memories and to thinking about a terrible mishire that you made. Well, you made a mistake, and of course, retroactively, you thought about your mistake and you realized that could have been prevented, or you decide you weren't going to make that mistake again. Can you walk us through that experience and for our audience to learn from your mistake?
Yeah. So like it was yesterday, unfortunately, I'd probably think about it far more than I should. I think our losses, right? We think about probably more than our wins at times. Quite frankly, it was this. I knew of a gentleman and his whole team. I knew of him because he did great advertising, right? He was on every billboard in this town. He was on the shopping cart. He was everywhere. And in our world, that must mean you have a lot of production. Yeah. And so it didn't quite match up. There was always an excuse to why he couldn't provide, right, any substantiation of income or this. And I kept vouching. And there's no way you could be doing all these things. You have to be incredibly successful. It was probably the largest sign-on bonus that I had ever been involved with. And the guy just fell flat. And it was one of those things where you walk in a room and everyone's looking at you like, that's on you. Like, you're the one that pushed it every time. And, there were yellow lights. There were things I could look at, but I had decided, it was going to be the deal of a lifetime, right? Like, and probably the only time or the first time, I can't say the only time, I had thought of my commissions ahead of slowing down and doing the right thing. I started getting into, I literally added it like, month 3, it's going to be this, month 4, it's going to be that. Like, I had my spreadsheet and I got blinded by the, that he wouldn't be there and doing what he's doing if he wasn't successful. Yeah. And so I started finishing my own sentences without proof, right? Like, well, he has a good reason. His tax attorney couldn't get us what he needed, but I know people that know him. So horrible mistake to just, again, I started finishing my own sentences and writing my own email with what I wanted to be true instead of slowing down and getting a little bit.
It sounds like you got greedy, Doug.
I did. There's no other word to say. Yeah. I got excited and I started wanting to cash the checks before they showed up.
All right. I think we've all made that mistake, and doesn't matter whether you're selling a career or you're selling something else. You're selling a talent. We all get greedy sometimes, and it does hurt you in the end, right? I mean, you got your commission still.
There wasn't, because I earn on what they do. I got
you got nothing then.
But relationally, I did too. It hurt because there were plenty of people that said, slow down. Are you sure, Doug? Are you sure? And I just decided I was going to be the smartest guy in the room, right? Like, I couldn't be wrong. And I just stopped listening and I stopped waiting. I was going to answer, yes, this is going to be the deal of a lifetime.
And in your world, somebody who's good at self-promoting will buy billboards and ad space, and as you said, you'd see them everywhere in the city. But for most industries, we're seeing this kind of self-promotion happening on social media now, where it's like people touting their success on Instagram or on LinkedIn or other places, and endlessly promoting their own success. I guess there's a measure to which this is necessary for them to be successful, but sometimes it's just compulsive attitude that doesn't necessarily add anything to the top line.
I 100% agree. The other thing, and I think our team learned this at Nations, one of the things that we slow down and see is, if you're in front of I'm going to make fun of it, so it's not just a car or a boat, but a plane, a car, a boat, it's very easy to connect on 2 or 3 or 4 parts of social media and just see, is the human being you're talking about the same human being 5 pages into a Facebook feed or LinkedIn, or do they have a different lifestyle in every one, right? Some of the things that we're seeing is a really conservative with a nice suit, on LinkedIn. We won't even talk about TikTok or but is it congruent and does it tell a story? And slowing down and watching and looking, because you're right. We get a lot of people that are, in front of whatever, I'll make fun of planes. If somebody can afford one, that's awesome. But they're just trying to build it before, I'm going to have all these things. And because of that, I'll end up working into it.
I see what you're saying. They're so obsessed with self-promotion that they're putting pictures of themselves in front of jet planes, but then asking you for a $50K job. Or something
there you go. Yeah, that's right. And build it and they will come, after the fact. Yeah. I just need the one break, Doug, and then I can start buying all these things that I want instead of the success, let them attain it.
So if hiring people who are in a commercial role, but who are not overselling, over-promoting, pushing the envelope too far and threatening the trust of your brand, maybe a good tip there is go take a look at their social media profile and see if it holds up.
Are they the same person all the way through, right? Or are they trying to figure out their identity on social media, right? Like, are they kind of fake in Instagram, but then, on LinkedIn, they're another human being. On Facebook, where their family might be, they really can't quite brag as much as they might during an interview, that kind of thing. Just, we're mostly who we hire is commission-based folks. Uh-huh. So that trust level and having, it's somebody's home. So we have to be very careful that they're going to handle it in a professional manner that isn't just all about the commission, right? Like, can they turn away? Can they do the right thing if no one's looking? Is it an important quality to what we're doing?
There you have it. So when in the world where people are hiring increasingly work from home, commission-based folks, trust and consistency of character is more important than ever. So Doug, some really good actionable tips here for our listeners. Thanks for sharing and thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, and happy birthday. Celebrate well, my friend. And I appreciate you having me on.
Pleasure. Thank you. I'm going to go and celebrate.
There you go. Bye. I appreciate you. Thanks, guys, so much.
That was Doug Opdycke from Nations Lending. It's great to hear of an industry which is counter-cyclical and had a strong 2020, and to remember that recruiting soon becomes a headhunting game where you look for whatever edge you can, including an edge in creativity, connecting with audiences based on their location, their employer, and sending them clever messages on messaging in order to get their attention. Lots to get inspired from here that you can adapt to your industry. If you enjoy this conversation and would like to sign up for more, click follow and please share with your friends.